Money is portrayed as though it were conditioned and responsive. It answers only those who summon it with the proper energetic frequency. Once this act of calling is learned, money not only arrives, it also increases. Want to know how it functions? Even if it is hard to believe, quiet and invisible influences determine how much money comes into your life and how much leaves it. A person can work earnestly, yet still feel held back by a hidden obstacle that prevents progress. In 1925, Florence Scovel Shinn, an insightful instructor of spiritual ideas, stated a principle that many powerful figures might prefer to keep hidden money, ignores appeals rooted in lack, and answers the tone of authority. In the Great Depression, when scarcity touched countless lives, she taught ordinary women how to direct their money, and strikingly, many grew their income even at the lowest point of the downturn. I will present that same approach here. It is not a collection of tricks or short-lived motivation. Rather, it is a rigorous practice-based law that can permanently change how you relate to money. Listen carefully, because one properly shaped statement can stir an inner strength you may have overlooked for a long time. Let's start. Step 1 is the directive of divine multiplication. Florence Scovel Shinn taught that money should not be seen as lifeless substance, but as conscious energy functioning according to universal laws. Among these laws, she emphasized one central rule: money responds to authority rather than to need. Therefore, approaching money in a begging manner pushes it away, while holding firm authority attracts it. For Florence, this was not mere metaphor, but a workable spiritual fact. She explained that money behaves like a disciplined soldier. Uncertain commands cause it to stop, while clear, direct, and confident orders set it in motion. In her New York lessons, Florence advised against asking and stressed the importance of commanding. The exercise was straightforward yet profoundly changing. Each morning, facing a mirror, she instructed students to stand tall. Take deep breaths and state firmly, "Divine money, I order you to multiply in my life now. You flow to me from every possible direction because I am a perfect channel of infinite abundance." However, the key factor was not the specific wording, but the inner force that energizes the command. It should not sound like hidden begging. It must carry the feeling of a final decision already completed inwardly. In other words, results come not from a script, but from the conviction of the one who speaks it. During the Great Depression, a student named Margaret came in, discouraged, widowed, caring for 3 children, and without resources. Florence taught her the decree and added one firm direction after stating it live your day as if the command had already been carried out. The method is both simple and deep. Treat these ideas as energetic tangles, remove them intentionally, and replace them with beliefs aligned with abundance. The process starts with quiet stillness. She instructed students to shut their eyes, take slow, deep breaths, and ask honestly, what money belief did I inherit and continue to hold? This is not an exercise in logic, but a space for the first impression to arise, a sentence, a memory, or a felt sensation. Sometimes, an inner voice repeats a parent's or teacher's message. Other times, the body responds tightness when requesting payment, or discomfort when imagining wealth. After the belief is recognized, she asked you to say plainly, "This belief is not mine. I return it to the one who created it. My mind is cleansed and open to receive the divine truth about abundance." She said that speaking this aloud often brings instant relief, like removing a rock from a creek so the current can flow again. Yet she warned that without a follow-up, the empty space can be filled again by the same idea, like a wound that gets infected once more. So she introduced a second stage, which she called the implant of millionaire consciousness. This means planting new beliefs with complete confidence to replace the old ones' strong, active declarations, such as I am an heir of infinite abundance. Money loves me and flows to me effortlessly. I deserve prosperity because I am the perfect expression of divine wealth. She emphasized that repeating words is not enough. You must inhabit each statement, picture it clearly, and most importantly, act as though it is already true. She recommended doing this daily for 21 days, a span, she said, the subconscious requires to absorb a ruling principle. She often explained this through Carmen, a math teacher who came in doubtful. Carmen believed her fixed paycheck set her destiny, and that earning outside the classroom was somehow undignified. In the session, Carmen realized the belief was inherited in her family. Teaching was seen as almost a sacrificial vocation. By sending that notion back to its origin and installing the belief my work and my gifts deserve unlimited abundance, her inner state shifted. Within weeks, opportunities for tutoring, consulting, and publishing emerged. Within a year, she increased her income 5 times without abandoning her profession. For Florence, none of this was chance. When a limiting belief is removed and a widening one is put in its place, the subconscious reshapes your actions, your choices, and what you perceive as possible. What you failed to notice before becomes clear now. What once felt far away becomes attainable. She summed up the teaching in a common maxim: you cannot have a new life with an old mind. This spiritual surgery works like a clean cut, allowing a new beginning free from the unseen weights you have carried for years. When your mind stops resisting and begins to cooperate, everything else, including the command of divine multiplication, operates with amplified, even doubled power. She emphasized that desiring effectively tells life, I don't have it, and that message keeps recreating scarcity. In contrast to demand is to declare, it is mine and I receive it now. And that tone promptly summons subtle forces that bring it into tangible form. At the lowest point of the Great Depression, she taught this difference to Rosa, a memorable student divorced, a mother of 4 without money, living on help from relatives. Rosa came to class with barely enough coins to pay the streetcar fare. Florence told her directly, you are not a beggar. You are a divine commander who has forgotten her rank. Do not ask the universe for charity. Make a rightful claim. After that, Rosa began each morning with a specific decree. Universe, I demand that you activate all sources of abundance that belong to me by divine right. Release right now the resources that are blocked and send them into my experience immediately. Florence instructed her to repeat it firmly and to carry herself throughout the day, as if everything were already resolved. 2 weeks later, Rosa received a telegram she had inherited land from a distant relative. A month after that, oil was discovered on the same land. To Florence, the result was not accidental. It was the natural chain of events that follows a rightful demand. The core idea is that demand does not come from pride, but from certainty about one's spiritual rights. It is like withdrawing your own funds at a bank. You do not beg or apologize. You show identification and take what is yours. In the spiritual practice of demand, you treat your divine identity as the credential for an unlimited inheritance. When they encountered this idea, many students felt afraid or guilty. Isn't that selfish? Florence replied that real selfishness is blocking the flow that could enrich your life and spill over to benefit others. She argued that the universe requires human channels to distribute its good, and that refusing to receive obstructs that expression. She compared demand to issuing a command in a well-designed system. When it is spoken from inner authority, life answers because it is designed to respond to conscious direction. The problem is that many people never train this capacity. They remain in simple wanting, passive and uncertain. To establish the proper vibration, she set out 3 steps. One, recognize your divine right to abundance. Silently affirm, abundance is my natural inheritance, and prosperity is part of my divine identity. 2, state the demand clearly and decisively, avoiding "I hope" or any vagueness. 3, live as a rightful heir, choosing and moving through the day like someone who has already received. She warned that at first the old mindset will try to sabotage you. Doubts will appear, memories of mistakes will rise, and inner voices will claim you are asking for too much. In those moments, she advised silently repeating, "My legitimate demand is being fulfilled now," not to persuade the universe, but to keep yourself aligned. Helen's change was remarkable, an artist who wanted to live from her paintings but only occasionally sold low-priced pieces. After understanding the difference between desiring and demanding, Helen stated, "I demand that my art be recognized and well paid." Within 3 months, an international gallery invited her to exhibit, and her paintings started selling at prices she had once thought impossible. Florence explained that demand works because it reshapes your identity. When you desire, you behave like someone without. When you demand, you step into the self who already possesses. Life responds to that identity, not to hollow wording. In essence, demanding is not asking for a favor, but claiming a rightful due within creation. When aligned properly, doors that were closed open easily because your vibration matches that of a receiver. Step 5. Create instead of compete. Florence Scovel Shinn often offered a seemingly paradoxical instruction. Never compete for money, create it. This was not just a saying, but a spiritual principle. Competition assumes scarcity, seeing limited opportunities and fighting for a portion. Creation expresses abundance, recognizing that you can generate new paths and resources. She noted that competition fixes your focus on external factors. You react to markets, other people, or circumstances, and that reactive dependence ties you to the same cycles that trap everyone. By contrast, creation connects you to source, the domain of original unmanifest ideas, where rivals are irrelevant because what you produce is singular. In Florence's view, each person carries a unique wealth-producing gift, something like their essence that, when expressed, not only generates income, but also brings benefit. This gift is found not through copying, but through inner inquiry. She encouraged remembering the activities that feel so natural and joyful that time vanishes. Such moments indicate your personal channel of abundance. Helen offered a vivid example, a secretary who longed to design clothing, but believed the field was already overcrowded. Florence asked a pivotal question. Would you rather compete with the crowd or create what only you can offer? Helen began making pieces inspired by her cultural heritage styles that were not then available in the market. Within months, a boutique that valued originality found her work. She stopped being just another competitor and became known for a distinct personal style so truly hers that it reflected her essence. That kind of alignment naturally attracts abundance. For as Florence taught, abundance is not given to the strongest, but to those aligned with purpose. Competition, by contrast, contains many traps. In competing, people often copy someone else's path to keep up, and in doing so, they weaken their own signature. That pattern creates a chase and compare energy that drains confidence and keeps alive the fear of lagging behind. For Florence, competition is scarcity. In disguise, it whispers that there isn't enough for everyone, pushing you to fight for a share. The remedy is simple: change the question. Instead of asking, "How do I get what others have asked?" "What can I contribute that no one else can offer in exactly my way?" She affirmed that this kind of question opens a direct channel to divine inspiration, a frequency uniquely tuned to you. She also warned that competition creates inner resistance. When your goal is to surpass others, your focus locks onto rivals and barriers. Creation, by contrast, proceeds with ease. When creating, you are not pushing against anything. You allow the new to come through you. This is expansion, not struggle. To build a creative mindset, she recommended a practice for 7 straight days. Keep a notebook and list ideas, skills, or passions without judging them. The goal is not to be realistic, but to open the creative channel. Afterward, review the list and ask, which of these can I form into a contribution that only I can deliver? Accordingly, she advised deciding and behaving as if abundance were already present. Accept bigger opportunities and invest in your growth as someone who trusts their own prosperity. Steadiness is just as essential. The decree is not a single utterance. It is repeated each day until it solidifies into a natural mindset. It serves not only as a directive to the universe, but also as a continuing reminder of your identity and the power within you. As Florence put it, abundance does not arrive because the universe hears you once. It arrives because you yourself no longer hear yourself doubt. For that reason, she stressed holding the decree with unshakable conviction, even if outer conditions have not yet shifted. In practical terms, the decree works like an anchor. When your thoughts drift into fear, debt, or scarcity, you say it again, never as pleading, but as stating an undeniable truth. With repetition, a deep shift occurs. What began as an exercise becomes your default way of seeing and speaking about prosperity. At that point, money is no longer something you chase. It becomes a natural result of who you are. She condensed it into a striking line. You are not a human being asking God for help. You are God expressing as human and reorganizing matter according to your spiritual will. When you understand and embody this truth, the decree stops being merely a technique and becomes a direct expression of who you are. At that stage, you do more than increase money, you reshape the entire structure of your life. Step 7. Craft the divine design of your abundance. Florence Scovel Shinn maintained that asking for abundance in vague terms is like expecting an architect to build without plans. The result will rarely match what you imagined. In her view, the universe is a flawless builder that follows instructions, yet it requires clear specifications. She called this process the divine design of your abundance. The core is both simple and energizing. Visualize and define exactly how you intend prosperity to show up and declare it as already underway. Instead of saying, I want more money, you specify how much, through what channels, within what time period, and for what purposes you will receive it. She compared it to drafting a master plan. The more detailed, the more smoothly it materializes. Accordingly, she recommended a quiet daily time to ask inwardly, how much am I choosing to receive? From what sources? How do I plan to feel when it arrives? What will it be used for? How will it uplift my life and benefit others? Helen, a student and painter, used this at a pivotal point. She wanted to live from her art, yet her income fluctuated. Instead of asking for more sales, Florence had her define the design, how many pieces within what time frame, at what prices, and on what terms. Helen wrote a precise commitment. Within 3 months, she would sell at least 5 paintings to clients who valued her work, paying in full and without delay. Each morning, she practiced a vivid visualization, receiving the money, hearing appreciation, and feeling gratitude joined with certainty. She then declared, Universe, this is my divine design. I order it to manifest in my physical reality right now in a perfect way and in harmony for everyone involved. Within 2 months, she not only reached 5 sales, a collector bought a painting and commissioned more work for the next year. To Florence, this was not luck, but the natural result of giving the universe a precise blueprint. Even with its specificity, she warned that the divine design is not a tool for whims or a private wish list. It must come from a sense of shared abundance, so that what comes to you harms no one and stays aligned with your higher purpose. For this reason, she consistently added the phrase in a perfect way and in harmony for everyone involved, protecting against outcomes that might help you but create harm elsewhere. A further principle follows: carry yourself as though the design is already in progress. This does not mean spending recklessly. It means making choices and acting with calm confidence that the plan is being built. For example, if your design includes funds to initiate a venture, begin immediately by researching suppliers, mapping the launch, and carrying yourself as an entrepreneur already in motion. She also suggested reinforcing the process with tangible symbols. Create a board or folder of images, phrases, and clippings that represent your specific abundance, not to obsess over them, but to gently guide and prime the subconscious. A hallmark of her approach was scheduled review, return to the design, and refine it when goals or conditions change, not from doubt, but because awareness matures, and yesterday's ideal can become a stepping stone to a greater good. She maintained that this practice awakens the organizing intelligence of the universe, an unseen coordination that arranges people's circumstances and opportunities to fulfill your plan. Even if the mechanics stay unseen, each step taken with certainty brings the outcome closer. She often ended with this unequivocal reminder: if you do not design your abundance, someone else will design your scarcity. Thus, the divine design should not be mistaken for a simple attraction trick. It is a statement of creative responsibility, accepting that you are not a bystander to your finances, but the chief architect of every resource that comes. By using it, you replace hopeful waiting with clear directives for building the prosperity you intend. In that way, as Florence observed, abundance stops showing up as an occasional visitor and becomes a daily dwelling. Additional step: sustain a prosperous state of mind. Florence Scovel Shinn emphasized that bringing abundance in is only the beginning. Real mastery is maintaining it. Many people attract income opportunities or improvements only to drift back to where they started. She said the reason is a failure to sustain prosperous consciousness. When that frequency weakens, abundance moves elsewhere. Preserving prosperity is like tending a flame. It requires consistent daily care. The task is not obsessing over money, but cultivating the inner posture that welcomes it: gratitude, steady certainty, and an open readiness to receive. One key practice is morning gratitude in advance. Give thanks not only for what you have, but for the abundance on its way. As she put it, when you give thanks in advance, you signal to the universe that you have already received. That frequency of certainty keeps open the channel through which your prosperity flows. A second habit is to bless money as it circulates, even when it is not yours. Whenever you see money being paid, charged, or spent, silently affirm, "I bless and multiply that abundance." Florence held that this discipline protects your frequency from envy and from damaging comparisons about money. At this point, she introduced a powerful concept: prosperous giving. It is not giving from exhaustion or martyrdom. It is choosing to contribute to people, projects, and causes that expand abundance. Joyful giving plants seeds in rich ground. What you give returns in large, not as cosmic reward or punishment, but through the rhythm of natural law. She stressed that prosperous giving is not limited to money. It can be time-shared skills, contributed ideas, or connections that strengthen others. The essential point is the felt participation in universal circulation. In her phrasing, what fear withholds becomes stagnant. What love gives multiplies. Another imperative is to protect your mind as sacred ground. She urged avoiding environments and conversations soaked in scarcity complaint or money pessimism, not out of denial, but because consciousness attracts experience. If that magnet is corroded by fear, resentment, or constant complaining, its pulling power diminishes. She also encouraged building a legacy of conscious wealth. Look beyond accumulation to how your abundance can keep creating benefit beyond your lifetime. This could mean supporting education, creating jobs, or leaving resources that help others expand what you began. She often ended her courses with a clear admonition: you are not a victim of the economy. You are the creator of your financial reality. And that insight is not motivational fluff. It is a call to responsibility. Creators do not wait for the world to change. They change, and the world reorganizes in response. With these principles in hand, the next step is to live from that identity. Money is not a judge or a savior. It is a servant and an ally. It responds to your authoritative call, your respectful welcome, and your intentional use. Reaffirm your stance. Right now, I decree that my prosperity grows and is sustained perpetually in perfect harmony for everyone involved. I give with joy, I receive with gratitude, and I keep open the infinite flow of my wealth. If these statements resonate, write them down now, instead of letting them fade as a passing inspiration. I issue this decree to seal your commitment to abundance and to broadcast that frequency to the universe. Share this message with anyone who needs to remember they are not economic victims, but creators of their financial life. And subscribe with notifications enabled, because upcoming material will explore further principles and spiritual disciplines to expand prosperity and dissolve hidden blocks. Remember, abundance does not come to those who only wait. It comes to those who command. And today, the universe is ready to respond to your voice. Imagine a Tuesday afternoon session with me. You arrive weighed down by the day and say you've repeated the decree, taped it to the fridge, set it as your phone wallpaper. Yet your stomach still tightens when you name your price, open your banking app, or hear someone ask for a discount. I would tell you what 2 decades of similar conversations have shown me: your words have already started the engine. Now your body and your behavior must learn to steer smoothly. Commanding is not enough if your breathing signals urgency, if your posture folds when money comes up, or if your calendar treats prosperity like a lucky accident you merely hope will happen. Strange as it may sound, money responds to the coherence of your presence. It comes in where coherence is present. It stalls when it senses a split between what you say and what you do. Start to think of authority as an atmosphere you embody, not just one sentence you repeat. Authority appears in your posture, the rhythm of your voice, the clean way you end conversations without over-explaining, and the respect you show for your own time. The universe will not treat you as serious if you postpone what should be non-negotiable. I have met doctors who are flawless with patients, yet chaotic with their finances. Performers who command a stage, yet collapse when facing an overdue bill. Parents who guide their children, yet treat their own prosperity as optional. They were not inadequate people or cursed by scarcity. They were simply untrained in holding their rank. The decree is your insignia. Daily discipline is how you wear the uniform. Pause to breathe. Inhale through your nose for a count of 4. Exhale through your nose for a count of 6. Repeat for 3 cycles. Notice your jaw, neck, and chest. Few people realize it, but a short exhale cues the body into a pleading state. Authority begins with a longer exhalation. Before any call, quote, or negotiation, regulate your nervous system not to hide fear, but to ease it. A regulated body thinks more widely, chooses clearer words, and hears another's needs without abandoning what is fair for you. Maintaining that calm keeps need from speaking through you and keeps money from bolting like a startled animal. Let's move to pricing, where many people's energy fractures. In Spain, perhaps because of our history and a work ethic tied to quiet sacrifice, there remains a belief that charging easily equals arrogance. You have likely heard the refrains, "Anyone who earns well must be doing something shady." A successful shopkeeper surely exploits someone, and a professional who raises fees has become conceited. If these ideas live inside you, even unspoken, your voice will tremble when you name a price. You will apologize for taking space and confuse generosity with self-erasure. Do not confuse kindness with constant discounting or service with self-punishment. True generosity grows when your resources are well supported. The authority described here is not arrogance. It is steady clarity. This is the price, because the process, care, expertise, and result justify it. If it is out of reach today, that is fine. When it fits you, I will be here. The calm in that last line persuades more than any elaborate justification. Also pay attention to how your week is structured. Money thrives when it is given structure and a container, just as a plant grows according to the pot holding its roots. I often see calendars full of production and delivery, yet lacking time to collect what is owed, review metrics, nurture relationships, or design the next iteration. The result is predictable. I work endless hours and still don't take off. Naturally, because your days have been trained for firefighting, not flame building. Carve out short but consistent windows for 3 non-negotiables. Face your numbers without drama or avoidance. Start at least one clear conversation each day with someone who could lead to business or partnership. And set aside a fraction of every inflow for your future self. Even if the amount is small now, the identity that act reinforces is immense. Each transfer to your 6 months from now self is a vote for your authority, and your mind counts those votes until doubt is outnumbered. Pause with me over something deeply personal, the phrases that shaped you in your home. When you were told not to show off, they may have been protecting you from neighborhood envy, not cautioning you against prosperity itself. When they said better something secure than dreaming too big, they were probably trying to spare you a fall, not to stop your growth. Acknowledge the protective intention and then place those sentences back in their proper context. If you leave them unexamined, their logic will end up ruling a life that no longer fits you. You are an adult in a different era, and the economy around you responds to a different posture. Letting go of a belief is not betrayal of family, it is maturity. You can honor your people while building the wealth they would have celebrated in you. If it resonates, write down one inherited phrase now, and next to it draft the rule you choose instead. It does not need to be grand. I wasn't born for much can become my work deserves support and projection. Better stay quiet can become I express my value without apology. I recognize that some of this may sound overly spiritual or airy, and you may want something concrete. That request is fair. I'm not here to offer vague promises. So turn your decree into a visible contract with your life. Specify what you will maintain for 21 straight days. Deliberate breathing before any money conversation. An upright, grounded posture when naming your price. A set number of proposals sent daily even on low-energy days. And a Friday ritual with tea or coffee to review honestly what came in, what went out, and what you still owe yourself. Include an act of giving, perhaps something as simple as a thoughtful referral for someone who is starting out. Do not wait for motivation. Identity is shaped through repetition. Authority does not appear because you woke up inspired. It arrives because your actions do not abandon your decision when fatigue shows up. We also need to address your partner, your family, and anyone in your household. Money left unspoken becomes a shadow, and shadows reliably sabotage. This is not about dominance. It is about giving prosperity a shared story. Hold a brief weekly meeting, no screens paper on the table, to speak honestly without blame. Here is where we are, here is what we want, and here is what we can move now. Do not use money like a weapon. Treat it as a map. When two adults discuss numbers without humiliation, the bond strengthens and choices stop being driven by fear. Some weeks, you may agree on only one small step, and that is perfectly fine. Minds learn from specific movement, not from endless speeches. A word about rest, we often forget that door-opening creativity comes from bodies that allow themselves to stop. If you grind without rest, any money you make will feel bitter and your nervous system will link prosperity with depletion. That is not our aim. We are after calm, usable, shareable abundance. Protect your sleep. Create pockets of silence and simple leisure. Walk sometimes without headphones. Let sunlight touch your face. You will be surprised by what a rested mind notices: new ideas, additional service lines, and new alliances. Inspiration is not reserved for a few. It is a physiological result of a body that remembers how to play. Another area needs tidying: debts and mistakes. No decree can stand on hidden guilt. If you owe money, draft a plan and inform the parties. If you delivered subpar work, make it right with a concrete action, not as self-punishment, but to clear the channel. In my practice, I consistently see that people who repair quickly move more lightly and close deals more cleanly, not because of mystical rewards, but because they stop feeding the inner voice that undermines them right at the edge of progress. Authority does not mean flawlessness. It means taking responsibility. Many practitioners hesitate to define their abundance precisely, fearing that specificity will tie them down and limit what life could offer. Here is what experience shows: those who avoid design end up improvising anxiously. Those who design keep the freedom to change from a grounded place of choice. Florence's notion of design is not a cage, it is a flexible blueprint. Specify how many projects you want, what kinds, within what fee ranges, and under what terms. Imagine the exact feeling at the moment of payment, the words used in that exchange, and the care with which you complete each engagement. Do not obsess. Revisit the plan briefly each morning, then act as if the work is already underway. Choose in alignment with that identity. If your design involves more specialized service study, invest in process improvements, create a clearer client document, and rehearse your presentation until it carries both gentleness and resolve. Magic, if it exists, favors those who set the table in advance. To everyone who says clients will not pay their true value, I urge you to stop chasing the undifferentiated crowd. You do not need everyone. You need the people who recognize and value your distinctiveness. For those people to find you, you must clearly and boldly articulate that uniqueness. Stop fighting battles on borrowed terrain. Create from your authentic voice. Consider Spain's bakeries. Some failed by trimming a few cents off each loaf, while others thrive by sharing their story, patiently tending sourdough and offering bread that feels like a small poem. The shift is not only in ingredients, it is in the narrative and the meticulous care embedded in every touch point. Find that singular thread in your craft, no matter how modest, and pursue it with devotion. When you lead with creation, pricing stops being a struggle and becomes a natural outcome. I admit my favorite milestone in this work is the moment someone faces the mirror and hears a new tone in their own voice. They are not speaking louder, they are not offering excuses, it's just that they are making a clear declaration. They inhale and then they declare. A quiet dignity appears in their face, a look that no longer seeks permission. That single shift surpasses any technique. When you see yourself as the benevolent, authoritative steward of your financial realm, order spreads outward to your relationships, your rest, how you enter a shop, and how you decline an unsuitable email. Money, finely attuned to such microclimates, begins to act like Florence's disciplined soldier. It arrives, aligns, and stays. If impatience arises here, I get it. Evidence can feel urgent. But let me underscore what almost never fails. Measure your authority by consistent actions, not by bursts of adrenaline. Track the proposals you send, the follow-ups you complete, the outreach conversations. You start the payments, you actually collect the euros you set aside, and the minutes of steady breathing before each key step. Monitor these metrics for 3 uninterrupted weeks and notice the changes. I cannot predict the exact form, but something will shift, some door will loosen, some opportunity will move toward you. It may not look as you imagined, and progress may be non-linear, yet signals will appear. Write them down, appreciate them, and reinforce them with one more aligned behavior. Before we end, remember prosperity becomes meaningful when it serves beyond your own balance sheet. This is not about grand heroics. It is about money properly directed lifting the world immediately around you. Imagine the student you might sponsor for a course, the practical guide you could write to, spare others your missteps, the role you could create as your venture grows, and the neighborhood brightened because you open your shutters each morning. Abundance that looks only inward grows stagnant from dullness. Abundance that keeps circulating finds new pathways to multiply. Bring your attention inward again. Close your eyes. Notice your feet anchoring you, the breath moving in and out, and your chest expanding. Recall our starting premise: money responds to authority, not need. Move that idea from abstraction into your body. Choose today to speak from rank rather than from lack. Choose to translate the decree into your calendar and posture into your pricing and the composed silence you hold when someone pressures you. Choose not to avoid your numbers and take one small concrete action toward the version of you who is already paid, organized, and at ease. Say it slowly, like someone remembering an old truth. By my inner and divine authority, my financial reality is reorganizing now. I uphold it through action. I enjoy it calmly. I share it with purpose. As you say it, lengthen your exhale, extend your spine, and gently lift your chin. That is the moment the universe begins to comply. That is the moment money learns to stay. Eventually, this work stops feeling like techniques and becomes your default way of living. There are no fireworks, only small proofs on an ordinary morning. You open your banking app with a steady pulse. You state your fee as easily as your name. You decline an offer you once accepted from fear. And instead of loss, you feel an uncommon calm. That is the threshold of serene authority. It is not arrogance, it is dignity at rest. From there, life presents situations you might once have called luminous coincidences. They are not miracles. They are the echo of your stance. Let's stay with the idea of echo. What you practice deliberately leaves an imprint on your environment. Others begin to see you differently, not because you shout, but because you refuse to sell below your worth. Referrals come from people you have never served because clarity attracts those who value clarity. Invitations come from circles you have never entered because your work has learned to speak for you. Economies, like other living networks, reorganize around stable nodes. When you become reliably consistent, delivering on time, invoicing at the right moment, owning mistakes, tending to details, and knowing when to conclude, you become that node. Abundance, like electricity, follows the path of least resistance, combined with the highest reliability. At this stage, many people experience a kind of dizzy fear, the whisper of, "What if I lose it?" That sensation is not really about money. It is the wobble that comes when your identity expands. You learned to face life from a cramped stance, and now there is oxygen margin and choice. It is entirely human for part of you to crave the safety of what is familiar. When it appears, remember expansion is not a pass-fail test. It works like a muscle that tires if overworked. Release the urgency to be ready for everything at once. Return to the practices that brought you here. Longer exhalations, firm and clear decisions, refusing to trade away your worth. Honest reviews of your numbers and relationships that do not drag you back into grievance. Follow that route again and again until the dizziness condenses into solid ground beneath your feet. You may ask what to practice when lean periods arrive, as they inevitably do, even for disciplined practitioners. Begin by refusing to dramatize the changing season. Just as nature is nourished by winter, every trade benefits from dormancy. In these intervals, change your metric. Instead of focusing only on this week's inflows, assess the quality of the seeds you are planting. In a slow season, authority shows itself by refusing to cheapen your name out of panic. Do not cut prices without wisdom. Do not scramble to fill every gap. Do not accept discourtesy. Instead, widen your creative arteries. Write the piece you postponed, codify your processes, refine the offer, and elevate the client experience. Those who keep their poise in the valley gain height on the next hill. When momentum returns, another question arises: how do you keep your heart supple? Because prosperity lived with clenched armor builds walls. Our goal is not to harden you. It is to keep your heart available without leaving it exposed to storms. Tenderness is not gullibility. It is felt sensitivity paired with clear boundaries. You can stay delighted by beginnings, thank each payment as if it were the first, celebrate others' victories, and still decline what is not right set conditions and close the door on paths that do not honor you. That blend of gentleness and firmness carries a lucid beauty and paradoxically a strong magnetism. People tend to trust those who can feel deeply and still stand steady. Consider another angle. Perhaps your growing prosperity is inviting simplification. A subtle trap appears when things go well. Assuming abundance means adding more until life becomes tangled. Resist that reflex. True authority also subtracts. Preserve what truly nourishes you and lets your craft shine. Cut surplus meetings. Retire offers that no longer meet your standard of delivery. If your calendar has become an unsolvable puzzle, redesign its shape. You owe no allegiance to outdated versions of yourself. Prosperity is not meant to make you a captive of your own growth. If progress leaves you breathless, reorder the frame. Often, the next elevation comes from removing weight, not adding more. An unavoidable stage on this path is leadership. It does not necessarily mean a large staff or a sprawling enterprise. To lead is to accept that once your voice stops asking permission, your presence begins to open roads for others. People will come to learn to request direction and to seek support. Do not fear this. You do not need every answer. It is enough to share honestly what you know works and to be clear about what you are still studying. Leading from the wealth you have built also means tending the social fabric around you. Pay promptly. Recognize others' labor. Recommend those who deserve it. Correct without humiliation. Protect the vulnerable. And refuse to manipulate urgency. Genuine abundance lifts neighborhoods, professions, and families. Live this way, money does not merely arrive to you. It moves through you in a way that nourishes you and those nearby. At this point, an inner skeptic may mutter that these ideas sound rosy only because circumstances happen to be good. Return to first principles. Your security is not tied to temporary outcomes. It is rooted in identity and discipline. Your calm is not attached to your latest invoice. It is grounded in who you remain when numbers rise or fall. That is the difference between suffering through every bend and steering with your eyes on the horizon, adjusting the wheel as needed. When you know you can sustain yourself without self-betrayal and rebuild without theatrics, you move through life with a steadiness money alone can never buy. Recall the inner child we mentioned earlier and consider what that child hoped to see in the adult you would become. The dream was likely not flashy wealth, but a home without alarms, a life with books on hurried hours and afternoons not scarred by arguments about bills. You can provide that now. In truth, prosperity takes on its deepest meaning when it becomes that atmosphere. Shape your home into a place where money is discussed without fear, where work is welcomed but does not take your whole life, and where saying no to misaligned things makes room for wholehearted yeses. If you ever question why you want more, let your answer include names and faces, the person you will hire and pay fairly, the project you will nurture locally, the scholarship you will fund, and the breathing room you will give someone who is beginning. When money understands the why, it tends to cooperate. When the tide rises, another temptation appears, filling every minute with output. Resist that compulsion. A prosperity defined only by constant productivity is brittle because it ignores what cannot be scheduled in unplanned conversation, that opens a door quiet reading, that births an idea, a walk whose sensations later feed your work. If you micromanage time to the last millimeter, you seal the small cracks through which the most valuable things tend to enter. Preserve open space. Trust that life needs room to surprise you while you still honor the structure that supports you. Treat it as a dance of rhythm and rest, not a chain that binds every breath. Return with me to the ordinary stage where reality is shaped your tone on a call, how your back meets the chair as you work the pen moving across a contract, the finger that sends a proposal, and the moment your eyes meet another's as you say yes or no. That is where the authority we've been building actually operates. In these small motions lives the frequency money recognizes. Hold this image each long exhale before speaking acts as a quiet directive. Each time you state and hold your price without hostility, you teach the world how to treat you. Each portion set aside for your future self signals to the universe that you are capable of governance. And each time you thank the flow, even as it narrows, you neutralize the fear that would otherwise taint the whole field. To close this segment, return to the mirror, only this time, hold silence for a few breaths. Simply look. Recognize in that reflection the person who has fought quiet battles for years. Honor the fatigue, the endurance, and the tenderness. Then say only what is essential. Declare that you choose yourself. Affirm that you steward your economy with respect. State that you give and receive in measured balance. Promise that you will no longer hide behind need because you trust the solidity of your calm authority. And immediately afterward, confirm the words with a simple, concrete action. Perhaps you finally send the proposal. Perhaps you withdraw an offer that does not honor you. Perhaps you call a debtor and set a date and method. Perhaps you block an hour to design your next chapter. Experience shows that one small visible act realigns the rest. If the old reflex to apologize for taking up space returns, go back to what you already understand. You were not born to ask permission to be well. You are here to create, to command, and to sustain. Markets often respond to those who treat themselves with that level of regard. When scarcity's voice returns disguised as prudence, thank it for trying to protect you, and then gently remind it that it no longer drives. You are at the wheel. Paths open for travelers who move with steady steps, soft hearts, and upright spines. Soon, almost imperceptibly, you notice at doors that once felt like stone yield to a gentle touch. Openings find you as you stand fully present, and money, the disciplined companion from our opening image, arrives, settles, and learns the habit of staying. There is also a melody worth mastering: timely, deliberate silence. When you state your fee, the silence that follows completes the sentence. When you request an advance, the pause gives the other person room to absorb it. When you outline a schedule, the quiet protects you from bargaining against yourself. Filling the space with too many explanations drains authority. Speak clearly, then breathe, and let the statement stand. If nervousness tightens those moments, return to bodily anchors, planted feet, a long exhale and a softened gaze. You are not arguing, you are declaring. For many, this simple quiet has increased earnings not because silence is a gimmick, but because it communicates that you are not scrambling to ingratiate yourself. You might ask how improvisations sparkle and play fit inside a framework that values discipline. They belong at the center, anchored, not replacing the base. The structures we've outlined are not shackles. They are scaffolding that allows play to unfold safely. A musician who drills scales precisely later improvises with grace. A prepared professional who understands cash flow margins and voice can take on a passion project that is not maximally profitable, donate hours to a cause, or take a restorative day for the theater and be nourished by it. Many confuse freedom with disorder. What we are training is a freedom that forgets neither invoices nor paying on time those who support your work. Now consider your team, even if team means one helper for 10 hours a month. Delegation can feel risky because it reveals your style of command. Delegating from panic and urgency exhausts people. Delegating from calm, kind authority expands your prosperity's reach and how it is perceived. The essentials are simple. Make precise requests, pay on time, correct without shaming, and offer thanks that are specific rather than generic. Teach standards through examples. This meets the bar, this doesn't. Do not assume telepathy. And remember, leadership is not micromanagement. It is stewardship of the container in which others can do excellent work. If writing that first payment stings, breathe and proceed. You are irrigating the ground you will later walk with greater ease. We should not overlook boundaries with clients. A boundary is not an icy barricade. It is a respectful perimeter. A client who messages at 11 at night is not bad, they are simply testing your edges. If you respond, you announce that the boundary is porous. If you thank them and reply during business hours, you teach that working with you happens inside a frame that protects the work. Durable prosperity requires sound limits. They protect your health, prevent resentment, preserve quality, and interestingly raise your appeal. People trust professionals who care for themselves. Money tends to favor those who refuse to mistreat themselves to earn it. By this point, it's clear we're stitching together an identity that becomes visible through small, repeatable actions. Notice your posture whenever money comes up. A seat set too low steals your stature. A collapsed back mutes your voice. Darting eyes erode confidence. These are small cues, yet the other person's nervous system registers them instantly. Sit tall, with feet planted and shoulders relaxed, letting your voice rise from the ground through you rather than straining from your throat. That posture has quiet elegance. You are not posing. You are reminding your body that it has a rightful place where it stands. Let's return to the inner child once again. A powerful healing image is to let that child witness calm abundance in practice. Skip the spectacle of luxury. Offer the sight of an unhurried table, an invoice paid on time, a leisurely afternoon walk made possible by a well-planned day, and a simple act of generosity that touches you both. Say inwardly, "This is what life looks like when money doesn't command when it serves." A child who once heard sharp fights over small amounts will sense that you have cultivated a new climate, and in return will stop pulling you toward urgency. I understand the desire for solid evidence. Review the last 30 days with clarity. How many proposals did you send? How many follow-ups did you complete? How many yeses did you give and how many nos? What amount did you set aside for your future self after stating your price? How often did you keep silence? How often did you breathe before speaking? How many loops did you truly close? No judgment, only data. That becomes your chart. You don't need heroic stories. You need distilled signals. What now feels like deliberate discipline will soon become automatic. Then comes my favorite milestone in sessions, the moment someone says they hardly recognize themselves in the best way. I sent the quote and didn't justify it. I set a payment date without complications. I said no to a project that wasn't right. I charged in advance and slept well. That I don't recognize myself is you finally meeting the self that has always been there now without fear. If a bundle of excuses still lingers, reassign that protective voice to a worthy post. Thank it for its efforts and tell it that from now on, it will serve you differently. By prompting hydration rest walks a call to your mother, silencing your phone before a negotiation, and softening your face with a smile as you enter a room. Often, the part of the mind that sabotages simply needs a different job. Given a suitable task, it stops undermining your progress and becomes an ally. I want to offer a closing image. Imagine your name as a wax seal. Each day you press that seal onto concrete actions, not hopes, but actions. After enough pages are sealed, your identity resists being pulled back into outdated drafts. The inscription on your seal reads, "I speak clearly. I charge with respect. I give with joy without harming myself. I close with grace. I breathe before deciding. I design and adjust. I thank ahead and behind." Pressing that seal day after day makes your presence reliably consistent. The universe coordinates more smoothly when it can anticipate you. And money, as you've learned, settles best where it feels safe. If after reading this you feel pulled to search for more techniques, check whether that impulse is a gentle dodge from the action you already know is due. There is a time to learn and a time to do. Today likely belongs to doing. The step does not have to be large. An email stating dates and terms. A call you have delayed. A proposal sent without apology. A transfer earmarked for your future self. A candid conversation at home. A courteous no. Abundance rests on modest bricks laid well. The gleam arrives afterward once the structure is built. Before ending the day, go to the mirror once more. Few words are necessary. Lengthen your breath. Feel the ground beneath you. Meet the gaze that meets yours. Then say, "I sustain what I decreed." Afterward, take a small, sustaining step. Do not try to carry 10 years in a single day. Carry the portion due today and place it where it belongs. Tomorrow, carry the next. This is how people steadily redesign their material fate. This is how the miraculous becomes ordinary. This is how, almost without noticing, money learns to stay.